What is a family board meeting? Have I really decided to homeschool next year? And how have I broken up with the TV? Keep listening for another Sarah's Secrets episode where I spill all. Glue. It's messy, it's sticky, it gets everywhere, but it's also really useful. Just like the glue that we need to put together the pieces of our life as busy working moms. We have after-school activities, we have homework, we have cleaning, we have laundry, and, we want to spend time with our kids as well in the process and maybe even have some time for ourselves. This podcast is for the busy moms out there who are balancing work, life, and everything in between, and we all know that in between encompasses a lot of things. If you're a mom who wants to do the best in all areas of life but still have time for yourself, this podcast is for you. I love to interview other moms and find out what works for them, get ideas from them, get inspired by them, and learn, we're all in this together. But I also like to share my own tips, tricks, struggles, triumphs, and share it all with you. So grab a load of laundry, lock yourself in the bathroom, go for a walk, do whatever you got to do, but I am just so glad you're here. Happy April, guys. It is April 1st. We're bringing in a new month, heading right into spring, which if you're from a colder climate, I'm sure you are very excited about here in Minnesota. I don't want to jinx it, but I know friends who have put away all their snow gear for the winter and are moving on into spring. But honestly, that's usually when we get a huge snowstorm, is when everybody puts away the snow gear. So I'm waiting because I don't want to jinx it. But the weather is warmer. The birds are coming back. The air is warmer and crisp and just beautiful. I can feel the sun when I go outside. And when a new month comes along, it means it's time for another Sarah's Secrets episode where I just like to share basically things I've learned from that month, products that I think would be really helpful, just little tidbits I've learned about motherhood or self-care or books I've read, ways I've improved my life in some way that I think could help other busy moms out there, because I'm constantly trying new things and figuring out what works for me. And I think, what works for me can also work for some of you, or some of the things I talk about might work for you. So I'm going to just jump right in and start talking about things that I really loved and learned in March regarding parenting. Now, I've talked a little bit on Instagram and in the past on this podcast about this book called The Family Board Meeting. It's by Jim Shields. It's a super quick and easy read. Basically, the premise of this book, I don't want to get into it too much because I want you guys to go read it. I think it's that good that I really want you to go read it. But basically, the premise of this book is that if you are an employee for a business and you're a higher up there, often they will take board meetings and they will go on little trips or like a day trip and go golfing or go do fun things and call it a board meeting, and they will bond, they will have fun, they will kind of think of new ideas and just come back refreshed. And so Jim Shields, the author of this book, takes that same idea and applies it to his family. And so he would take one child of his, just one-on-one, and have a family board meeting with that child. The child picks out what they're going to do. They spend about 4 hours once a quarter doing this. They look forward to it, and they really try to do things where they're bonding and learning and opening up conversation and just learning about each other and growing closer as father-son, father-daughter, mother-son, mother-daughter, depending on, the relationship. And he has just shared how it transformed his family and his bond with his children, as well as stories of other people who have tried this and how it really just glued the family together. And I'm all about work-life glue. I'm also about gluing the family together and really maximizing your time with your kids, making the most of it. And I loved this idea. And so right as I was reading it, I didn't even finish it before I started scheduling in our board meetings. So the way we're doing it in our family, and I plan to do a whole episode on this in the future, talking about different things you can do just to give ideas, especially during a pandemic when a lot of options aren't open to us or aren't necessarily safe or you're not comfortable with. So how we're doing it in our family with 3 kids, well, only 2 of our kids are old enough to actually do this. Our baby is only 7 months, and so she doesn't really understand this and can't decide what she would want to do. But for our 3-year-old and our 6-year-old, we scheduled times to do it with them. So I just took our 6-year-old on a date. I picked her first just because she's in school a lot and I don't get much one-on-one time with her, where I do get a lot of one-on-one time with my 3-year-old right now while the baby's sleeping. And then the next time my husband went with the 3-year-old. Then the next time my husband will go with our 6-year-old and then I will go with our 3-year-old. So the kids are going back and forth and then we're alternating who's taking which kid when. So that way they're getting one-on-one time with each of us. We're scheduling it. We're getting it on the calendar. And it's hard with my husband's schedule because it's never the same week to week and we only know a few days ahead of time. So we can switch it, but I just put it on the calendar so at least it's on there so we know, if we have to adjust it, that's fine. But I think it's really important to put it on the calendar. Prioritize that time with your kids. You can never get it back. I know people hate hearing that there's only, the cover of the book says, you have 18 summers to create lasting connection with your children. And I know people hate that fact and don't like being reminded of it, but it's the reality. And so how can we take that fact that's kind of hard to hear and use that as motivation to spend time with our kids, to build in quality time? I think there's nothing better than one-on-one time with your kids. I love family time too, but our kids really need those deep relationships with us individually. And you get to see a side of them you don't always see when their siblings are around, and they can open up to you in ways that they might not be comfortable opening up to you when their siblings are around. So that was a big thing. I took my 6-year-old on our first one. I vlogged about it a tiny bit, but I'm really trying not to pick up the camera when I am, doing those dates because it's very important that I'm focused on my kids. But we did end up going to buy a bike for my 6-year-old. She's been so excited about that because she outgrew her old bike. So we did that. We went to a bookstore. We ran to Target because we had some time to kill and it was really cold outside. So we just picked up a few things there and she spent some of her money on a Barbie. And then we went to Perkins because she hadn't been there in forever. And she really wanted the sprinkle pancakes. So that gave us time to talk and just be silly and laugh and color and stuff together. So it was really nice. I'm excited for when we can actually go do fun things together. It was hard because it was really cold and windy that day. So we couldn't go do something outside. And a lot of the fun activity places weren't open that day or just aren't open at all right now. So we had to be a little creative, but we made it work and we had a lot of fun. So I definitely encourage you guys to read that book and implement family board meetings into your own life. I'm sure this is not the last time you're going to be hearing about it from me because this was really a really influential book in my life. And I love to share when things make my life better as a mom so that it can make your life better as a mom. Also, I dropped a video a couple weeks ago sharing that we decided to homeschool for the next school year. I'm not going to get into why here, but I have a whole video on that. But I did want to kind of talk about what really prompted that decision because it kind of came out of nowhere. And I was trying to reflect back on where that decision came from. And I've learned my personality is just very I am type A, but I'm also very spontaneous in some ways. When I get an idea, I just want to do it right then. And I've been thinking about homeschooling for years and years, even before I became a mom. We just didn't know how it would work. And then I did daycare. And for me, it wouldn't have been a good fit for our family to do homeschool and daycare at the same time because my oldest daughter just was not a huge fan of the daycare. And it was really nice for her to be able to leave and be in a neutral schoolroom that's not, she's not sharing her mom in that situation with kids that aren't her siblings. So but now we're at an opportunity where we could decide to homeschool. And so we did decide to do that. But really, the decision just kind of happened when we were quarantining for the third time. She had to quarantine because she was a close contact of somebody who had COVID and through school. And I just saw the slow pace and my girls getting along really well. And I don't know, it just felt so much more peaceful and calm. And I had an opportunity one day where during nap time when her little sisters were napping and I was getting some work done, she asked to go outside and I said, sure. And I went to check on her and I looked out the playroom window to our backyard and I saw her. I get teary-eyed just thinking about it. It's just one of those really sweet moments where she had the bubble machine going and she had a bottle squirter of water that she had found in our cabinet in the backyard. And she filled it up with water and she was squirting at the bubbles. And she just looked so carefree and just it was the epitome of childhood. And I teared up watching her. And it seems silly, but it was just one of those moments that I'm like, when she's at school, she's not doing these things. She's not having these experiences. And I started thinking about how rushed and chaotic our nights are when she comes home from school and if we have any activities going on or even just the bedtime, bath time, dinner time rush that we have. And they're wily, they're kind of crazy at night. And I just thought of all the lost opportunity of childhood fun that she has. And this is not to knock public school or private school or anything. It was a realization I had that really prompted me to give homeschooling a second consideration, I guess you could say. And so what I want to take from that is to really cherish those moments when they come. It's so beautiful as a parent to kind of relive your own childhood in a way through your kids, and to see the wonder of life when they slow down and they just do these things that are just for the pure sake of having fun and being curious. And how often do we do that as adults? I just think it's such a blessing as a parent to be given those moments by our kids to slow down, to just linger, to think about life, and just be silly and try things out and experiment. I love that. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to be able to fill my days with those experiences now with homeschooling. So that's all I wanted to share about that. And then I also wanted to share just this idea that I've had to come across many times in my motherhood of letting go and finding solutions to fit my kids. So what I mean by this, a couple weeks ago, the snow had melted mostly. For one of the times it melted and then it snowed again. But we had gone out for a walk. My girls wanted to go for a walk. And I thought, okay, great. And we were walking on a path on a road that didn't have a sidewalk. And of course, after the snow falls, you have all these puddles full of gross mud, oil, like all kinds of stuff from the roads. And so my girls, of course, started jumping in it. And my 3-year-old, she's very 3, and you cannot stop her when she wants to do something like that without physically picking her up and moving her. She just has such a strong drive to do the things she wants to do. And she's so curious and so full of energy and just life. I love that about her, but as a parent, it can be kind of hard sometimes. And so I couldn't keep her out of the water, and I just had to stop and say, okay, it's okay. They can jump in the muddy puddles. We'll wash them off. I don't know what's in the water, but they're not drinking it. We'll take a bath when we get home. And I just let them do it. Normally the type A neat freak in me would have freaked out, would have picked her up. We would have gone back home. But I'm like, okay, it's okay. I can wash their boots. I can wash their clothes. We could take a bath. It's not a big deal. And then we got home and I did all that. They had mud everywhere, but they had such a fun time. And then I stopped and I thought, okay, I don't want to do that again. I don't want to have to take a bath and wash all of their stuff. But I want my kids to be able to do the fun things like jump in the puddles. So what can I do? What can I buy? How can I reframe this so that I can allow my kids to do these things that they want to do? Because I think sometimes if you're anything like me as a parent, you just shoot down their idea. Like, oh, no, it's too much. It's too hard. It's too messy. We don't have time. And maybe you don't in that moment, but maybe stop and think, how could I allow them to do that? How could I allow them to do these fun things in childhood that kids are drawn to do? They love to get messy. What could I buy or what could I do to make this work for us? So I decided to buy rain suits where it's basically like head to toe they're covered. You can tuck them into their rain boots so that, they're totally covered except for their face. They have little hoods and they're actually super cute. The ones I got are pink with little bunny ears, and it's got like a little plastic visor cap so it's not like splashing into their eyes, and super cute. And so I bought those. They were $23 per kid, and they'll last for a while. And so now whenever they want to go puddle jumping or play in the creek or whatever, we have these suits so I can say yes. So I had to really stop and say, what can I do or buy to allow myself to say yes so that my kids can do the fun thing they want to do, and so that I'm not super overwhelmed and regretting this decision later. So just take a second and think about, what are some things that your kids really want to do that you say no to? Obviously, they want to push and they want to do all kinds of things, and we have to say no. But there are things that we could say yes to if we just made some minor tweaks to our day or bought a couple of things that aren't very much money that will allow us to say yes. So I just wanted to share that because it was really powerful for me to think about the things that I say no to my kids about, and really think about, how could I say yes? How could I allow them to do this in a way that works for all of us instead of just shooting it down and saying no and then kind of robbing them of an experience that would be really beneficial to them in a lot of ways. Okay, moving on to my own mom category of things that I learned or did or bought for myself that I think are worth sharing. So I talked about reading this past month. I talked about how I bought a Kindle Paperwhite, and why I picked that was because I wanted something that didn't have apps on it, because I'm trying to get away from picking up my phone and instead read more. And let me tell you, it has revolutionized so much in my life, and I'm just really glad I bought it. And let me tell you why. I used to, at the end of the day, look forward to some time to myself, and I would usually turn on the TV, spend 20 minutes trying to find a new show if I wasn't already into a show, and then I would watch like 15 to 30 minutes of that show and then fall asleep on the couch before 8 o'clock. And so I wasn't really getting quality time for myself. I was falling asleep, and I'd be frustrated because I'm like, I want to spend some time on myself, but I'm not even finishing the show. I'm falling asleep on the couch. Then my neck hurts. Then my husband has to wake me up, and I have to crab at him because I'm really cranky when he does that. And it's just not fun. And so I didn't even try to break up with the TV. That wasn't even really the goal. I just wanted something else I could do to replace my phone. But I just found that by having a book, I started with a fiction book I read, Where the Crawdads Sing, and it sucked me in, and I loved reading it. And so when my kids went to bed, I couldn't wait to open it up and start reading because I wanted to know what happened. And then I also was reading throughout the day. I was kind of going between reading the e-reader, the Kindle version, and the audio version. And so I will link to the whole podcast episode where I talk really in depth about reading and share a lot of your guys' tips and tricks as well. It's a great episode. But I just found that by doing that, I started to train myself to want to read after my kids went to bed instead of wanting TV. I had wanted to do this for so long, but I couldn't figure out a way to motivate myself to read because I was so tired at the end of the day. I just wanted to watch TV. But by buying the Kindle Paperwhite and coupling it with a really interesting, good read, I trained myself without even trying to give up TV and switch to reading. And I haven't watched TV at all this month. I don't think at all. I don't think I've turned on a show at all in the last 4 weeks. And I am now working my way through my 4th book, which is awesome. I was wanting to read 1 book a month. Now I'm up to 4, and I've just loved them. I'm going to talk at the end of this episode what books I read. But I just highly encourage you, if you're trying to break up with something, replace it with something else. If you're trying to break up with eating sweets at bedtime, maybe replace it with eating something healthier. So you're not just giving it up cold turkey, you're replacing it with a better habit, and then eventually you can try to transition out of that. But by replacing TV with reading, I'm giving up TV and I'm replacing it with something I really wanted to do, and I'm surpassing my goal for reading. So I'm really, really excited about that. And then I also started trying social media breaks on the weekend. I think for anyone, even if you don't have any kind of platform online, I think not using social media a lot can be really helpful. For me, because I do Work Life Glue online, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm in my Facebook group, I'm on YouTube. It's really hard for me to turn it off. And it's really hard for me not to get sucked in because I'll go on Instagram to post something, but then I'll see somebody's post, and then 10 minutes later, I'm like, oh yeah, shoot, I was going to post, and then I've forgotten what I was doing. And I just honestly hate that part of it. I want to just be, focused, but it knows how to suck you in. And so by taking a social media break on the weekends, it's been really helpful. And I found that I don't miss it as much as I normally would. I think because I already replaced grabbing my phone with grabbing my Kindle. Am I perfect at it? Absolutely not. But on the weekends, I delete the apps. And instead of when I go to grab my phone, I'm like, oh yeah, they're not there. And then I try to replace it, or I just, do something else because it's not there. And by having to re-download them and put in my password and everything, it really hinders me from going on there. And I just think it's super healthy to take a break. It doesn't have to be on the weekend. It doesn't have to be every weekend. You could do it like one night a week or one day a week or during a certain time frame every day or every other day. But I think having that break where you physically actually delete the apps is really, really healthy and can really do wonders for yourself, your mindset, and yourself as a mom, like focusing more on your kids. I think it's a great thing to do. And then one other thing I wanted to share about my own self and my journey with health. It's been a huge struggle for me as a mom, especially this time around, the weight gain and things. I think, I don't talk a lot about this, but I will be honest. I am on antidepressants. I've been on and off of them. After I had postpartum depression, after my first daughter was born, I've always gotten on them after I've had a baby. But this last time, after my second daughter was born, I had a lot of trouble weaning off of them without getting really intense anxiety. So I stayed on them. And then I wanted to wean off of them when I got pregnant with my third, but then COVID started. And we were all very worried because I already was not in a good mental state because I was so worried about it. And so we just decided to have me stay on them. But I found for me, I have a lot of trouble losing weight when I am on antidepressants. It's not officially, in the side effects, they don't list that. But I've found when I'm off of them and I change my diet, I can lose weight really fast. But when I am on them and I try to do things, it's really, really hard. And so that makes it really unmotivating, demotivating, discouraging, I guess, to try to lose weight when I feel like it's just not going to happen no matter how hard I try. But I also know that after this third baby, I have significant diastasis recti where my abs are separated. And so I decided, I need to get back into a good health routine, even if I don't lose weight, just to be healthier, just to show my kids it's important, just to gain muscle, just for my own self-confidence, and because it's a good thing to do, even if I don't lose weight. Do I want to lose weight? Yes, but that's hard for me right now, and I have a lot going on. But if I change the focus from losing weight, because I've already programmed it in my head that I'm not going to lose weight because I'm on antidepressants. So if I reprogram my mind to just decide I'm going to heal my diastasis recti. I'm not going to try to lose weight because that's not motivating to me right now. I'm going to try to heal my abs. That is something I can do. There's no medication stopping me from healing my abs. So I started the program Every Mother. This is not sponsored. I pay for it myself. But it's a program that is designed to heal your abs. You do a lot of core compressions, which is a breathing exercise where you're sucking in your abs in different positions, and it's just helping bring those abs back together and heal your abs. And it also has workouts that are healing to your core instead of harmful to your core, because once you've really damaged that wall, the connective tissue between your abs, it's really easy to damage it again. It's kind of like, if you've injured a part of your body, it's a lot easier to re-injure it. I've popped my knee out of the socket and it wants to pop out a lot more. My other side doesn't ever want to because it's already figured out how to injure itself. And so it's a lot easier to re-injure that area. So once you've injured your abs, from pulling them apart by being pregnant, it's a lot easier to stretch them out again once they've healed and once you've made progress. So I really like that program. They have different versions of it. They have a light version where it's not so intense. They have like a regular version that I'm doing. They may have an even further one. I can't remember, but all the workouts are designed to help heal your abs. They're not too aggressive. They're not too much. They're not very long. And it's really got a lot of great knowledge and education as well about abs and the right way to move and the right way to get up and things like that, so you're not injuring it further. So I'd highly recommend it. It's pretty affordable and it's all online, and I think it's a really great program. Hopefully I'll see some results soon, but I would definitely recommend you check that out if you have had a baby, if you're pregnant, even years past, if you've noticed that you have that bulge in your belly, that mama pooch, that they call it. You might want to check and see if you have diastasis recti and try out that program to heal it. It's never too late to heal it. Okay, lastly, I'm going to talk about my books for this month that I read that I think you guys might find interesting. I read Where the Crawdads Sing. I'm pretty late to that party, but I definitely did like it. I'm not going to give a lot away, but the ending wasn't as good as I had hoped it would be, but that's just my opinion because I always have a bazillion questions, and I was talking to some friends about it, and I'm not going to give it away, but I was just like, well, if that's what happened, then why did this happen and why didn't that happen? And and I kind of overthink things, so that's probably why. But it was a very good book. I would definitely recommend it. And then I read 2.5. I'm on the third one right now, homeschooling books that are also just great books in general. I mean, they are really about homeschool, but they also are just like great books about the philosophy of motherhood and really honoring your kids' childhood and going at a slower pace and trusting them to learn in their own way and in their own time. That's not to say don't teach them anything, but it's just saying that we are designed to learn on our own and to be curious and to seek out knowledge. And we should give our kids more credit in that area, that they can learn on their own and through nature and things like that. So I read The Call of the Wild and Free, which is a great book. I got it through the Libby app, I believe. So I got it through my library, and it was a great book. Just kind of like an introduction to homeschooling and a more like not carefree, but more like independent, free, wild. It's called Wild and Free, way of homeschooling. And just, like I said, more a slower pace and just trusting your children's learning process. I also read Teaching from Rest by Sarah Mackenzie, which is a great book all about trusting God in the process of learning and not overthinking things and focusing more on the teaching part and less on the what, like focusing more on those relationships and what you're teaching and how you're teaching it, and less on what you're actually teaching, if that makes sense. Because she talks about curriculum and how curriculum is what we teach, not the books that, we teach from, and just a lot of different things that were very similar to The Call of the Wild and Free. But it was a great book, just stressing like, if we're more restful, if we slow down, if we're more patient, we can be better teachers, better parents, and just have a better homeschool environment and atmosphere for our kids. And we can really let God take over. And it's just really stressing the importance of God in your homeschool if you are a Christian, and how, he'll make the learning happen. We can do our best, but we can't try to control everything and butt heads with our kids and just try to cram the knowledge into them. We can lay the foundation, but then we have to trust that God will take over and really help them learn. And then lastly, I am currently reading this book called Mother Culture, which is very similar to these books, but it's, I just started it. I'm about not even halfway through yet, but it's a lot about the mother and our role as moms, and how what we do and how we think and how we spend our time can really affect our kids. And just a lot of stories and great little interesting nuggets of things to think about in terms of motherhood and homeschooling and things like that. So definitely recommend all of these books. I'll have links in the show notes to them, but those are the books I've read. If you have any recommendations, I definitely love to hear them. So DM me on Instagram and you can share some as well. But I have a whole list going of different homeschooling books to read. So guys, that is everything. Those are my secrets from March. I will be back soon with another one of these in a few weeks once I've, tried out some new things. But I will be back soon with another episode to help you create balance that sticks in your life as a busy mom. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening or watching. If you're on YouTube, I am doing video podcasts over there. If you want to see me talking and not just hear me, you can definitely do that. Or you can just keep listening on your favorite podcast app and just listen to the audio. They are the exact same, just minus my face. So if you like my face, watch on YouTube. If you don't like my face, you can listen on the podcast app. Thank you guys so much for listening. Go get something done. Go love on your kids. Go live your dreams. I'll talk to you soon.